For the past 37 years, he's been the man with the mustache who reports the news to Central Indiana nearly every day. Depending on that year, right? Sometimes it happened in the early mornings or late night, weekend, weekdays.
Yep.
But it always happened. Well, come tomorrow, December 1st, Dave Barras will sign off for the last time. But the legacy he's leaving behind will last forever.
It was just a year ago that we spoke with the owner of the Marble Hill Inn restaurant. Now, what was that like? The state line where I'm standing splits it right in half.
It's hard to put into words the role David Barras has played in the Indianapolis media the past 37 years.
Wake up, Indiana, it's Friday.
It's ironic because words are what made his career.
In our news,
Sometimes solemn, sometimes urgent, and often funny.
Shoes are necessary. Socks are a nice touch.
Dave talked his way into what would become a phenomenal career in Central Indiana on July 21st, 1980.
When they talk about Indiana no place, that was pretty much downtown Indianapolis when we got here.
Coming from Evansville, Indianapolis seemed like a booming metropolis to the young reporter and his wife.
To see this now, 37 years ago, and to know that I reported stories about that through the whole thing, it's just amazing to me.
What is now Georgia Street was nothing but boarded up vacant buildings when Dave arrived, and he's had a front row seat to the reinvention of the Circle City ever since.
I was there when they built the old Hoosier Dome. I did stories about them building the Hoosier Dome. I was there when they ripped it down.
He was there when the first Colts plane touched down in Indy before anyone even knew the team was relocating.
No hype or hoopla here.
He was there the day after they closed the old airport terminal and watched the new one go up.
You want to go inside and go down memory lane?
You bet.
Was this the age of the bearded Dave Barras?
Yeah, it was. I had this giant beard.
Hired as a reporter for nights and weekends, Dave first earned his chops on the streets of Central Indiana. But it was an opportunity 5 years into his tenure that sent the bearded journalist on a road he never could have imagined.
They had this morning spot open, and I'll tell you, I got the job because there wasn't anybody else on staff who wanted to get up that early and do the job.
You're watching Indiana's own Wish TV.
It was a fairly new concept, morning news. Wish TV's Daybreak was just a year old and one of 3 morning newscasts in the market.
We were a very bad third place. I mean, bad, like barely on the ratings radar. And we were there because the other stations were there, and you had to do a morning newscast.
happy anniversary.
But sometimes obstacles are really opportunities in disguise. The struggling Daybreak offered a newly shaved Dave and his partner, meteorologist Randy Ollis, a chance to just be themselves. No one was watching, after all.
All they cared was that we were there, and we started just doing stuff, shtick, and we started getting an audience.
I thought I saw Boomer around somewhere.
Dave and Randy's Daybreak was doing something it never set out to do.
Watch it now. That ball is
It was becoming a success.
I knew where he was going. He knew where I was going.
Yeah, I just haven't had this graphic done for you, Dave.
Yeah, great.
And suddenly the crew got involved, and we did a lot of crazy stuff. And I have to say, we spent a lot of time in the boss's office. The boss often called us in. He would say, funny is fine, silly is not. And we'd nod and say, okay, and we'd go do something silly.
And all of a sudden, you go from dead last to first place in the mornings.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
It was the best.
Oh, man.
Randy and I just, we kind of gave everybody else permission to do that along the way. And we saw it in our competition, eventually starting to adopt some of the things that we had, in a sense, pioneered.
Happy birthday to Beverly.
Things like birthday announcements, funny graphics, and
Here we go. I don't think you do it.
zany antics.
We didn't plan to do anything in the morning. We didn't plan a bit and say, okay, we're going to come in and ask people whether they like thin crust pizza or thick crust pizza. We're just sitting there one day and we just, hey, hey, you know, I have a taste for pizza. I wonder, do people like thin or do they like thick? And we would ask, and we started doing stuff like that, and people responded.
For 20 years, the duo that had become best of friends took Daybreak on a ratings ride. But it wasn't all good.
We've had some layoffs along the way. Those days are always tough and terrible. When we lost the CBS affiliate, that was a bad day. When we found out that Randy had cancer, that was a really tough day. And for me, and this is really personal, is the day they told me I'd be leaving Daybreak. Probably my worst day at Wish TV.
Dave says he never got a good explanation, only that management at the time wanted to go in a different direction.
It's terrible. It's humiliating. You know, what we do is public. You know, there was an article in the newspaper.
He was moved to evenings.
It's a Friday game.
And although hurt, Dave chose not to let the decision
It means Monday's even closer.
determine his attitude.
As things changed and evolved and they asked me to do this or that or another thing, I always wanted to do it the best I could. And I think that humor helps.
Turns out, humor can heal.
3 Center Dave.
Dave went on to anchor successful evening newscasts for 12 years before deciding it was time to turn off the mic for good and spend more time with a handful of viewers he calls family.
I don't want to get emotional, but I love them. I can't even put words about how I love them.
Dave says he's looking forward to traveling and spending more time with his sons and grandchildren, but most of all, more time with the woman who has been at his side through it all, his wife, Kathy.
She heard a lot of things on certain days that, you know, nobody else would hear, and took it all in stride. And, you know, we're as crazy about each other today as we were 44 years ago when we first met, and I'm really lucky for that.
Lucky. Maybe that's a good word to sum up David Barras' career. But then again, it seems like we're the lucky ones, his co-workers, the viewers, anyone who's been on the receiving end of one of his jokes told for the 100th time.
As you sign off on your career, what is one word that you can think of to describe it all?
Thankful. I'm a kid who had a dream. When I was a kid, I used to take my dad's earmuffs and pretend I was doing the news. My brother and sister will tell you, I would pretend I was doing the news at home when I was 7, 8 years old. I wanted to do the news always. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to report on what was going on. I always did. Well, there are very few people in the world that have a dream, and it comes true. It did for me.
We are going to miss you.
Not nearly as much as I'm going to miss you.
Wow.
Thanks. Wow. Hey, I really worked hard not to be emotional about it, but it's tough. It is tough when you've done something that you absolutely love for so long with people you grow to love, that it really makes it a little bit tougher. But thank you all. You know, tomorrow's my last newscast. I suspect there's some things planned for tomorrow as well, and we'll have fun with that as well. But again, and I'm going to put it into better words tomorrow. But thank you. That's all I can say is thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank all of you for making my career, the thing that I always wanted to do, possible.
Yeah. All right. More to come tomorrow.
Yeah, made my career fun here at the station, too.
It's good.
So, big